Max, how has your November been going so far?
November is November. It's
I know.
I don't know. It's definitely probably one of the worst months of the year.
It's so busy too. Like, do you find for school and
Yeah,
everything?
school-wise and just like everything. It's like you're not like December, at least like it's getting more towards the heart of the winter, but
Well, and Christmas.
you got time to look forward to. You got time off.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a bit better, and then you're like, oh, I'm getting into the new year.
Yeah.
Blah blah. Except I think it's New Year's. Okay, a little bit off topic here. I think New Year's is incredibly overrated.
Overrated. Oh,
right?
I totally agree. It's never as fun as you want it to be because it's supposed to be really fun.
Yeah.
But there's no way you can ever live up to your expectations.
No, it's like I feel like a lot of people have that same view, but everyone always goes into it being like, oh, New Year's, like, it's going to be sick. Like,
Yeah,
but
everyone
just
plans
never
really
is.
big stuff, and it never pans
is.
out. Though
Yeah.
I think I have pretty good like New Year's plans with my girlfriends this year. I think we're gonna do like a chalet, so that might actually
that does sound nice.
yeah, it might actually be exciting. But getting into the podcast after
Yeah.
we just chatted, haven't seen you in a little bit. So today we're gonna be talking to a like very high performance athlete, which
Yeah.
I'm super excited about. Like that's a kind of a move away from who we've talked to so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great aspect to like go into. It's completely different, but it's very relevant.
Yeah, and like their story was picked up by the media, so it definitely ties into how storytelling and media play into sport.
Yeah.
But who's like one of your top favorite kind of like athletes? Like they don't have to be, they can be NBA or NFL obviously, but maybe like you could even do like Team Canada if you wanted.
Honestly, I'd say, I know it's like pretty broad, but my favorite athlete of all time, and is still the GOAT in my opinion, is LeBron.
Oh, okay, fair.
Like he's, especially what he's doing nowadays, like he's year 21 and he is just performing at such a high level.
It's unbelievable.
And like he is just like insane. And like he's the best basketball player in my opinion. And like besides just like basketball, just like athletically, at his age, for how many minutes he's played, doing what he's doing, still jumping above the rim, he's everywhere. Like honestly, like I mean, it's a testament to like how hard he works, and he talks about that he spends like over $1 million a year on his body, so that definitely helps. Definitely, I could definitely use that a little bit, but
yeah, maybe I could be jump over the
yeah, I could probably jump a little higher, but yeah, I feel like LeBron, he just like, I just love watching him play basketball, and I think like as an athlete, like he's also on a different level, and like nowadays they're talking about. They've always had like the GOAT debate in basketball, LeBron Jordan. Yeah. But I think LeBron's at a different level outside of basketball as one of the best athletes in general of all time. Just for the longevity and the high performance, I think like there's like I think he's the top.
And I think it's really cool that he's like built himself a brand as well.
Oh yeah.
Like around himself. I think that's a really interesting
he like came straight out of high school with the craziest expectations out there, and he's so surpassed that.
He's
like he's like, and it's, but even if you ask people like, oh, this, like no one's gonna live up to these expectations, like he was the chosen one. Like Sports Illustrated said he is the chosen one, and he's like gone past that. He obviously still takes like so much hate, but that's
and
that's
he's
just
like a household name now.
That's the media industry these days. Everyone's gonna get the hate.
Yeah, but like everyone knows who LeBron is, and that even like speaks to just like how successful he's been.
Oh yeah, I think he's a billionaire now. No surprise.
Yeah.
But who's your favorite athlete?
I don't know. I think it's very hard to pick a favorite, but one of my favorites is Christine Sinclair, and that's what I said about like Team Canada Olympics. I don't know. For starters, she's just an incredible athlete, has like brought women's soccer in Canada so far forward. Yeah. So kudos to that. And she also reminds me of my aunt. Every time I see her on TV, I'm like, oh, Christine, like, hi. And I feel like, you know, like she reminds me of my aunt. So then I like to watch her even more. And then when she's successful, I'm excited. And I feel like I've grown up watching her play. Yeah,
she's like talking about longevity, like we just said, like she's been around for, I feel like forever. Like my whole like lifetime, it feels like she's just been on Team Canada scoring goals. Like
I know,
household name.
And like when they won, like 3-ish years ago now against Sweden, like at the Olympics, I watched that. I cried. Like all of the content that came out of that was amazing as well. Like I remember watching CBC TikToks about like telling the story of them playing the US and beating them, and then them playing like Sweden and beating them. And that was like just an unreal thing to watch. And, you know, unfortunate this year with the World Cup, if that was in fact her last one.
Yeah.
But I think that she's done so much for women's soccer.
Yeah, well,
here.
now she actually like just announced that she's retiring
done,
and she's
yes.
done. But I feel like, but she's still playing a few more matches for Team Canada. And
Yeah.
they're going around Canada. I know they're playing a few in Vancouver. I think they might have one here as well. And they're just straight sellout. Like,
Yeah.
it's literally just a farewell tour for
Just
her,
to see her.
which it's just like a testament of like how much she means to Canada, to soccer, to women's sports, to everything. I feel like she's, I don't know, she's
one of the best out
she's
there.
she's one of the best out there. And maybe your aunt is too.
Yeah, different sport with my aunt, but,
different sport.
you know, Jody rocks as well.
Yeah, she's
Give
not.
her a shout.
She's not. Yeah, she's not going to Team Canada now.
No. But anyways, let's get into our next segment. We're very excited, and we can't wait for you guys to hear who we have on next. Today we've decided to switch it up a little bit in terms of our guest. So we'll be talking to a former varsity athlete and mental health advocate whose story kind of reached audiences across North America. She played basketball for the University at Buffalo and the Canadian national team, and now works for a community-based basketball organization here in Toronto. So please welcome Hanna Hall to the podcast. And thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to get into this today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I know that you and Max already play together, so you know each other a little bit. But I was kind of looking at your LinkedIn and your social and everything, and you've had like such an incredible journey. So I'm very excited. And we haven't talked to a high-level athlete yet.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, you're the first one.
I mean, I wish I could say like I played actual basketball with Hannah. I mean, we played.
Hey, runs are quite serious.
Yeah, we
runs are
play
serious.
for fun now, so it's good.
Yeah, I was like throwing you
You
in
just
there.
threw me in there. I'm like, you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah, you got to run with that.
Exactly.
He's a varsity basketball player.
Pretty much that
On the
varsity
women's
schedule.
team.
Yeah. It still counts. It
Yeah,
still counts.
exactly.
So you played basketball at the University at Buffalo. What was your favorite part of being a D1 athlete? Because I know we all like see images of that and we all have preconceptions about what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, this has definitely changed for me a lot. While I was there, I was super focused on the success, loved, winning, cutting a mush down. That's always the best part, especially when you're just like a hard worker.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like as high level athletes, like that's what you strive for. But now that I look back, like just the memories I made with my teammates, the like ridiculous locker room moments, like travel moments, times like that. I would say like my connections with my teammates and just those memories and relationships I have after sport are the best things that I could ask for. And that comes with, the grind, right? Like that comes with the hard work and being on the court with them every day. Then you have those times off the court that you appreciate so much more. So I would definitely say that was my favorite part about being over there and being in that like really, really high level environment with them.
Just all the camaraderie, right?
Yeah.
Of, like you're sweating together and grinding
exactly.
together.
It's full circle when you do both and you're like able to really like be in the trenches with them, then the outside of it is a blast. So
Going into your time at Buffalo, did you know any of your teammates, or was it all new to you there?
No, everybody was new. There was a couple other international girls, which was amazing. It's awesome to be able to like connect with them. But everyone was new, and there was only 2 freshmen, so it was just me and another girl.
Yeah.
So we were definitely like a little scared going
Yeah.
in. We didn't have the strength in numbers, but I had a great team, so I was super lucky.
Can I ask, like, did you have any rookie initiation going on that you can tell us about?
No, I don't actually remember. I don't think so.
It's probably a good thing.
That's probably good.
Our team. Okay, it's very like strict.
Yeah, like
very
I'm sure they
strict
are.
over there.
Oh, yeah,
but
the NCAA will crack down.
our team was more just like for the fun, and
That's
it was,
good.
Yeah, it was all about the vibes with our team, and more just like getting everyone in the same boat and having a good time. So
Right, and then playing for Team Canada, what was that like? Like, what's the experience like on the court? How did you feel?
I mean, for me, it was a huge prideful moment. Like as a 5'3" kid, like growing up, kind of being told that like I was always a soccer player, so always being told like just stick to soccer, to soccer. Like basketball's not it. It just made me want basketball so much more. And being a kid from Hamilton, having people to look up to, like Kia Nurse and just some other like amazing women in the city who played for our national team, I always just wanted nothing more than to play for our Team Canada. So being out there, I would say like to this day, there isn't really any other moment in basketball where I've felt more pride. It's just a different sense of accomplishment when you're able to like really represent something that's like so much bigger than yourself. Like as soon as you put a country on your chest, it's an entire different environment. So that's definitely something I hold really close to my heart.
Basketball wise, like, do you think that was probably like one of your biggest accomplishments to play for Team Canada?
Yeah, I would say for sure. I think getting to the States in general and reaching some of the goals I had going over there was really big. But again, like there isn't anything that's bigger than playing for the national team. And then like winning at that level too, and just kind of like changing the narrative and being able to play. It was a part of my comeback story was like when I had torn my ACL, like I didn't play for the national team and then was able to come back and play the next season. So I think that played a role in it too, but definitely one of my biggest accomplishments.
And you ended up working your way into a starting role after tearing your ACL?
Yeah, super surprisingly, kind of just got thrown into it and during exhibition tournament, and I was like the younger age out of the two, so was not expecting it. And I think that's also the first time I realized like I needed to start seeing myself in bigger shoes because I was like, okay, I made the team, this is awesome. And how do I actually have a role? And then from having that mentality to like, okay, Hannah, you're starting and you're actually like the head of the body. Like you got to figure it out and run this team. So yeah, that was a really big role shift for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's kind
of. What on earth were the nerves like before that? Like I feel nauseous before I go and play.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people ask this, like especially when I was playing in the States, and like, oh my gosh, you're in March Madness, like Sweet 16, whatever. I was like, I'm not nervous. Like, it's so weird that you kind of just like, I would have like anxiousness to like get out there and get on the court, but nerves weren't there. But then if you like talk to me about something else that I'm not usually doing, like I'm like shaking in my boots for no reason. But no, I don't know. That kind of stage excited me. It was like, I guess it's because it's what you work for and prepare for. So.
And you know you're ready almost in a sense.
I get nervous like watching March Madness, like, let alone like.
I feel like I get more nervous watching it too. But then I'm in it, I'm like, wait, why don't I feel this way?
Yeah.
It's because Max has so much money on it. Probably. So next we just want people to kind of get to know you, but like just at a more surface level. So Max and I are actually going to go back and forth, I think, with the rapid fire questions.
Awesome.
So the first one's pretty simple. Red Bull or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee, always?
Always.
Iced or hot?
Iced only. I'm crazy.
Oh, okay.
You like your like special kind of iced coffee, don't you? You make it a certain way.
I'm kind of bougie. I love making it. Like I genuinely enjoy making it. I don't buy it often. I buy beans and like make it at home.
That's impressive.
Saving money.
Impressive.
Yeah. I would say it's not. I like to think it's saving money, but I actually did the math the other day and I was like, I'm not saving any money.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, what was your go-to pump-up song before a game?
Oh, Trophies by Drake.
Okay.
Always. I don't know why and where, but like Crazy Me was just like headbanging to that song.
It just always got you going.
Always. My teammates like, what are you listening to? Like
always trophies.
Trophies.
I feel like I went through a trophies phase.
Yeah.
Like it hits pretty hard.
It hits
I don't know what to tell you.
And it's just like a different Drake vibe.
Even if you're just out for like a little run, it's like so casual.
You're sprinting. Yeah.
So now, what's your favorite way to kind of move your body other than basketball? Like lifting, Pilates, yoga?
I would say I don't have a single one. I think my favorite part right now about movement is being able to explore a bunch of different ones and just like really being more intentional about like how I move my body and learning. So like a lot more Pilates, a lot more like functional movement and stuff like that. But I've started boxing a little bit to try that out.
I've heard boxing is actually great. I do
want
to try it.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. And I feel like the most amateur I've ever felt in my life. I'm like, it's hard. It's challenging me, but that's why I like it. It's different. So yeah.
I kind of asked you this before, but let's go maybe more. You said Sweet 16. Like, what was your most memorable basketball moment, maybe from your time at Buffalo?
I would say Sweet 16. I have to, for sure. I would say winning, but I'd more say the journey to get there. Winning the round of 34. So we played Florida. I won't forget this. I didn't even touch the court, but it was my favorite experience. We played Florida State at Florida State, and I just remember them being like, very much like putting us at the kiddies table. Like, we're Buffalo, right? We're just like the mid-major team that maybe just made it. And we beat them by 30 with their fans packed the house at that home. So it was, that was an awesome experience. And then we had to play South Carolina in the Sweet 16, so it was a little tough, but
Okay.
Good experience still.
Amazing.
Really getting to shove it in their face when it's a home
Yeah,
game.
exactly. We're like, bye.
I love that.
So coming out of the University of Buffalo University at Buffalo to find your current position at Layup, how did you feel and how did you find that current position? Maybe you want to talk a little bit about what you do now and how you went from university.
I would say I had absolutely no idea how I was going to get there at the time. Went from being in the States during a pandemic, so hadn't seen my family in a year, hadn't really figured it out. I luckily landed a job actually at Canada Basketball as an intern for a year on the business team. So that was awesome because I could kind of just start to touch the waters of different other spaces in the basketball industry. So I was there for a bit, and then I was living at home and ready to leave. So got up and moved to Toronto basically. And met some people through Layup. And I just started as being a camp counselor and working admin kind of style. And then ended up landing my job as program manager, and then eventually transitioned into manager of partnerships. So
wow.
Right place at the right time, I guess.
Yeah.
And just honestly meeting great people through basketball was how I made it happen.
How does it feel to still be involved in basketball, but just in a different capacity?
It's awesome. I mean, I've had to be very intentional about resting, because I've realized that when you get to do what you love every day, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, to actually be able to work in something that's your passion and fuel your passion, it's easy. It's easy to go to work, too easy almost sometimes. So I have to really be intentional about resting and stuff.
And taking time.
Yeah, exactly. But it's been incredible to be able to, I think the industry that I work in and the job that I do, I never saw it from that lens before. On the community level, it was always so high performance. Yeah. And so when I get to do this and I get to learn personally and learn more about myself and my experiences and how that can play a role in my work environment, it's incredible to be a part of, for sure.
Has it been hard, coming from the high performance and then being in community where it is more just so the kids can learn and develop skill, and you're but I want to win.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. It's definitely hard. And I think for the first year it was a lot harder. Now I'm starting to really see the positive side of it and recognize that a lot of the stuff that we incorporate at a community level is actually what needs to be incorporated at all levels of sport, because it's just, it doesn't have to be such a high performing environment all the time. I think there's different approaches to it. So yeah, just learning about that. And again, like I said, learning about myself as a high performer and being able to take that out of it a little bit has been a great learning process for me.
I feel like as a high performer though, you can teach especially kids work ethic and all that sort of stuff that maybe would be different than just being in the community. You're oh, it's just for fun, but you also have that other side that is very important for people to learn from a young age.
100%. Yeah, it's how do we marry the best practices of high performance and social work, essentially. It's community and keeping kids in sport, because right now I mean, I try not to go on a tangent, but the biggest issue is kids dropping out of sport, and it's because of these straight high performance mentalities and coaches and people who are planting these seeds of you have to go to this level or wherever at such a young age that kids end up not even wanting to be there anymore. And that's not what sport's about.
It's taking the fun out of it.
Yes,
almost.
Exactly. And I think if we can keep kids in sport for longer and kids play until they stop loving it, that's fine. But to have young kids dropping out of sport is not great. So that's kind of what I've shifted my focus to a lot more now.
Right. And I feel that, sport has always been something that's been good for my mental health and can help kids learn to grow and develop their own kind of good mental health practices, for sure. So then thinking about that, I wanted to move next into kind of, we always talk a little bit about one of our guests' biggest challenges. So while you were still playing, I know that you faced a serious kind of mental health battle, and I was hoping you could just take us through that a little bit, whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
Just so we can hear a little bit about that story and how it's shaped you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, I'm definitely an open book, so I'll try and really keep it narrow. But I have posted my story, so people are able to go and watch the full thing. But yeah, as just a hard worker my whole life, I was always in a place of trying to prove.
Yeah.
And so when I went to the States and was in that high performing environment, and I had all the resources I needed to be on the court every day, to be in the gym every day, to be just working on myself as an athlete every day, I just took it and ran. And essentially that became my biggest, like my high performance tendencies, my resilience, my discipline, like that, without a lack of like real like understanding of it, became my downfall because I was working too hard too often, wasn't fueling enough. And I was actually diagnosed with anorexia in going into my second year of college. So finishing off my first year, just in a high performance mindset, without a real understanding of eating disorder in sport. It's not something that's really talked about, but it's very, very common.
Right.
So yeah, I was really shook for a while. I had no idea what I was going through. So a lot of my struggles was actually about figuring it out and learning what I was going through. And in that, I became really passionate about trying to solve the problem of others who could go through that or could face a lot of the same struggles. And the way I did that was just like storytelling. I wanted to be able to connect with people. So yeah.
I know you said in your feature, so University at Buffalo did a feature on it. I know you said that the reason you kind of went to see a specialist in the first place was because of your coach.
Yeah.
So maybe how was that like, you know, being sent by your coach and then actually recognizing like, oh, something's going on here, not just you talk about the grind and no pain, no gain, right?
Yeah,
These ideas that like are instilled in varsity athletes and a lot of other high performance athletes. So to something that was normal to you, then realizing that it was a big issue.
Yeah.
What was that kind of like?
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a lot of unlearning of some of these like tendencies I had in my mind. And like you said, like these are things that are celebrated in sport. Like these are the tendencies that athletes need to be better, right? But we don't talk about what too much is. And so for me, it was first unlearning a lot of those things and realizing that a lot of it was actually negatively affecting me. And then I would say I really like started going to therapy and getting help like 3 times by the time I actually was like ready to be there and like take in the fact that like I needed to be open to getting help. But yeah, as much as like therapy helped me and everything, it wasn't until like I realized within that like I had to change.
You had to take
and
a
had
step.
to be open, to it, that I could like actually get the help I needed, right? So
what would you say was like your initial thought process, like right away, like when you were diagnosed and like when you heard about this? Was it straight about yourself? Did you look straight, oh my God, what am I going to do with basketball?
yeah, first I was like, you're crazy, like full denial, like I'm fine, I'm just a high level athlete, just working hard.
It's just
like,
the grind. It's normal.
It's the grind. Like these are the things that athletes are supposed to be doing. Like I'm supposed to be in the gym. I'm supposed to be putting in extra work to be on the court. And so for me, it was like really figuring out, first of all, that narrative was completely wrong. But then also like having to step back and like learn about what this was that I was going through. That was my like first reaction for it, for sure. But it took a while, like honestly, to get past that phase. Like that denial phase is real.
Yeah.
It is real. And I think we can probably, everyone who's struggled with mental health can relate to that, of like, as humans, we kind of like look for the excuses in all of things and like try and find, like our brains take these shortcuts, and denial in that like period of time is something that we like have to get through. So that was definitely my first real reaction.
Yeah, I feel like especially with sport, it's like you look at any athletes in any sport and all you see is all these stories now about everyone's pushing through the hard times, the struggles. It's like, you can do it, you can push through, you just got to keep working. And then I feel like the mental health aspect sometimes takes the back seat, and then it doesn't really come out until after the playing career. So I feel like having it during is definitely a great realization that I feel like a lot of people maybe are struggling with, that they don't find out until after they finish playing sports.
Yeah, for sure. And that's actually like one of my main motivators in telling my story. I think like one of the biggest healers for me was being able to like see that other people were going through this. I think I don't want to name the athlete, just one of the, like a professional NFL player who actually was going through the same thing I was going through and was like heavily diagnosed with it. And it's just like, it's known as like orthorexia. So a lot of like just being obsessed with like clean eating, high performance, overtraining. And it's more about thinking that all the foods that you put in your body are going to directly affect how you perform, not necessarily classic like eating disorder, I guess, like behaviors that people see. So that's why it took me a while to untangle that and figure it out. But once I saw that other people were going through it, that's when I started to heal. That's when I was like, this is what I'm going through. Now I know like I can get help, and just that like relation. So that's one of the main reasons I wanted to like tell my story in the first place.
I know they're like high level athletes, right? Like, so it's something similar. I feel like the thing with orthorexia as a diagnosis, it's so difficult because a lot of people think that what you're doing is a good thing. And I'm sure you in your 100%. Mind too thought it was a good thing, because you're like, oh, I'm healthy. I'm very, very healthy. I'm working really hard. And, you know,
for other people.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then being able to realize that it was actually something that was negatively impacting you. And then after the feature was done by the university, and it was picked up by a lot of like news networks and other kind of outlets, how did that kind of play a role then in your journey and eventual kind of recovery? And then how do you use social media now?
Yeah, I mean, again, just to the storytelling piece, I think that's what really, there's two parts to it. I think when we talk about identity as athletes, I was very tied to sport my whole life. That's all I kind of like, that's where I found my outlet. I was just an energy bunny as a kid. So like to be able to just run around and play sports and make friends through sport was like, that was my identity.
Right.
When I realized that storytelling was a passion for me and that I had like a skill in being able to put that together, because I kind of like wrote and produced the entire thing without any help until the last like video stage of it.
Yeah.
And I felt so much like fulfillment in doing that. And so I guess like being able to do that and being able to realize like the power of storytelling in sport and just the reach that it had and the number of people, it took me like 2 months to get back to everybody's like DMs.
Wow.
Because it was like so many people related to it. So many people related to it. And I was like, it was heartbreaking in a way, because you're like, I sat there and did not think for the first like 2 months of my recovery that anyone else in the world was going through what I was going through. Because that's just like how we deal with things, right? But to see that and to have that many people be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this is what I'm going through, and I had no idea, because it's just something that's not as commonly spoken about. In general, mental health isn't, but like especially something like what I was going through isn't as commonly spoken about. So yeah, definitely that power of storytelling and putting light and shining light on struggle is so uncomfortable, and it's so important. It's so important that we have to like keep doing it. So I think that was like my main kind of thing with it.
I feel like also like with you being able to produce and share your own story on social media, it really allowed you, what's to say, to tell your story the way that you wanted it to be told, in the way that you feel like you could connect to others, even though at first you didn't realize that I'm going to connect with others, and a lot of people are going to be facing the same thing. But I feel like it's a way more authentic way, because it's you, than opposed to having somebody be like, oh, you're going through this, like tell me this, but like phrased questions a certain way to get you to tell the story the certain way. But like now, like you said, everybody reached out after, because I feel like it was raw. Yeah, it was raw. Exactly.
And I look back on it now and I'm like, maybe there's some things that I see differently. And like a lot of it is different. I have a whole, I mean, it was 5 years ago, like there's a whole new perspective, but I wouldn't change at that time telling it in that way because of that. Like there's something different about seeing like a story that's raw and uncomfortable that honestly, if you don't spark that discomfort, you're probably not helping that person, right? Because you're not really like digging deep into it. So I think that was like really important to me. Yeah, for sure.
Forcing people to get vulnerable, like with themselves in a way then too.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
And when you like have a day that you're like struggling or you're feeling a bit down, what's something that you can focus on, or a tool that you can use to like help yourself get through it?
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a learning curve, and I think an ongoing change for me. And a part of like transition and, you know, being in new places, this is something that you kind of have to continue learning. But for me, one thing that I've really held to is every single day, like when I wake up, it's a fresh page. And like the second my feet touch the floor, it's like, today's a great day. There might be like a ton of things that happen that day that change that, and that's fine. By the end of the day, it could be an awful day. But no matter what, every single day I wake up, it's like, I'm starting my day with, today is going to be a great day. And then I have tools and a lot of stuff that I've built throughout, just a lot of like mindfulness and recognizing like some thoughts and like automatic thoughts that come into mind and stuff like that. It's like an ongoing like learning process I think all of us can benefit from. But my biggest thing, and I guess like what I've shared with people has been like the biggest help for me, is just always starting on a positive note. And that's like, nobody can change what happens between the second I get out of my bed to the second my feet hit the floor. So that's when I'm like choosing to kind of have that start to the day.
That's amazing. Honestly, I think I gotta take that to heart a little bit. That's some great advice. Yeah.
I think you can do that, like, no matter where you are and how your mental health is. Like, everyone can do that. And like, you know, recovery is such a journey, and it's amazing to see you share your story. And I'm sure it's connecting with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Coming out, maybe for people who are coming out of high level sport or varsity sport, moving into just like careers in life, what was like, how do they manage the identity crisis there? Because I think we can all acknowledge that there definitely is one when sport's such a big part of your life.
Yeah, I think that's the first and most important thing, is like hitting the nail on the head. Like it is an identity crisis, and people love to run from that. They love to be like, oh, it's fine. Like, I'll figure it out. I have all these. No, like, it's okay to be in a place where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. And before we get to that place, or before we move forward, we can't move forward without accepting that. So I think that's like one of the biggest things. And then just really, it's a lot about like digging deep. Like, you have to find it within. I think a lot of us love to take the shortcut of like looking for the perfect like answer from someone else, and it doesn't come. No matter where you go, it doesn't come if you don't find it from within. So I think it's really about like, what are your passions? What are your values? What are the things that make you tick every day? And those are the things you just need to keep tapping into as you move out of sport. And then I think just one of the best pieces of advice, I don't know if this is another question, I might be jumping the gun, but one of the best pieces of advice I learned recently, and is something that I wish I knew when I was like transitioning and kind of in this identity crisis, is just to open like every single door. And when we open all of the doors and just like walk in our passion and really like tap into like those values and those things that like just make you happy when you open those doors, the ones that are supposed to close are going to close, and the ones that are supposed to be open keep like walking through. And that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people, but I think just having that mindset of like, stop trying to limit yourself and put yourself in these boxes, just open every door. And then eventually you'll realize like there's a lot of shifts in places that you can go. So I think it's just a lot about really untangling that like one piece of identity in sport, and tapping into like what's within you and what are the things that make you happy outside of it.
And you can always, I think, like rely on your experience in sport. 100%. Yeah. But then I think people forget that there's more to them than that. But I think it's a good way to like, open every door and don't just do what people expect of you almost.
Exactly. So yeah, it's definitely like, it's again, it's self-work, and it's uncomfortable because we like to find the answers from other people, but yeah, it's got to find it within.
I think there's also like, when we're talking about this, like sports and the identity, I think there's a lot more aspects of sports that like people don't realize that you could use going forward. Then it's like, oh, I'm on the court, I'm playing defense, I'm shooting. Like, there's a lot more things to sport than like actually playing the game itself. I'd argue there's actually probably way more things 100%. To it than the actual game.
Yeah.
There's much more you can bring out of it, I think.
For sure. I've talked to like a couple people just like in different business roles and just different areas of their career. And one of the biggest things they've said is that like, I hate to be biased, but like they'd hire an athlete over somebody who has XYZ on their resume any day. Because they know that like athletes have however many years you've played, they have, I mean, for example, 17 years of experience in being in a team environment, right? They have communication skills for 17 plus years, 18 plus years. Maybe it's 5, but it's still 5, right? And so recognizing that like those skills are actually like tangible skills you can use, instead of like we're like, oh that's my athlete skill. That's my skill on the court. But like, no, like you literally, because I see it every day. I see people who are like stressed out for something that I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I've been in this fourth quarter now. Like, it's easy.
Why are you stressed?
Chill. Yeah. So it's definitely, that takes a while to really like recognize, but just tapping into it.
You also just have that competitive fire.
Yeah. You know?
No,
a little bit too much sometimes.
No one can take that away. No one can take that away from you. But
like, come on, let's go, pick it up. No.
You use that everywhere. You're walking down the street. They'll be like, come on.
I'm like sprinting.
It's no slow walkers. It's just fast.
You kind of like really just touched on it with some great advice, but what would you, if you had one other piece or like one more, it doesn't have to be necessarily a piece of advice, or just something that you would say to other people if they're going through any mental health struggles or anything like that, trying to find their way? Like, what is something that you could tell them to just like get them to that next step, or that you think would help?
Yeah, I think my biggest one is just starting every day with like a new day, and every time that your feet hit the floor, it could end up being the worst day, and that's fine. But if you make the choice every single morning to wake up and see like light in it, that's a first step. And I think healing and recovery and finding yourself from struggle is all it is a bunch of small, simple steps. And those small things is what like moves you forward. And we try to find like really big answers to these questions, but it's really just about small little steps. And if you can take those small little steps, celebrate them. Like that's the biggest thing too. Like we don't celebrate. So I think just really celebrating the small wins. And then that stuff starts to compound and build up. And now you start to really like be able to heal. And then the other thing is just find your people and connect with them and tap in when you need. I think community and storytelling is everything. And there's a lot of healing that comes from just being able to relate to someone else. So,
well, that brings us kind of to the end, but it's been so lovely chatting with you. And I'm sure your words have definitely helped someone out there, and there's something that we can all take away from this as well, sitting here.
I'm already thinking differently, just
sitting
here after the conversation.
I
know I'm like in my mind, I'm like going through all this stuff. I'm
this is just advice that other people have given me, so I'm passing it along.
You're the messenger.
Yes,
it's
I'm the messenger.
Great advice.
But then if people want to find you and learn more about your story, where can they do that?
I'm big on Instagram, Hanna Hall. And yeah, just I love connecting with people.
Yeah.
So please, everyone, reach out. I love making a connection. I try to keep it real on there, not keep it a highlight reel.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You can also find the highlight reels.
Yes.
Also online,
Let's get it. Yep.
Perfect. Thank
Awesome,
you so
thank
much.
you.
It's been
Yes.
great.
Thank you so much.